Chapter 15, Presentation Aids, Design and Usage. What are presentation aids? When you give a speech, you're presenting much more than just a collection of words and ideas. Because you're speaking live and in person, your audience members will experience your speech through all 5 of their senses: hearing, vision, smell, taste, and touch. In some speaking situations, the speaker appeals only to the sense of hearing, more or less ignoring the other senses, except to avoid visual distractions by dressing and presenting himself or herself in an appropriate manner. But the speaking event can be greatly enriched by appeals to the other senses. This is the role of the presentation aid. Presentation aids, sometimes called sensory aids, are the resources beyond the speech itself that a speaker uses to enhance the message conveyed to the audience. The type of presentation aids that a speaker most typically makes use of are visual aids: pictures, diagrams, charts, graphs, maps, and the like. Audible aids include musical excerpts, audio speech excerpts, and sound effects. A speaker may also use fragrance samples or a food sample as olfactory or gustatory aids. Finally, presentation aids can be 3-dimensional objects, animals and people. They can unfold over a period of time, as in the case of a how-to demonstration. As you can see, the range of possible presentation aids is almost infinite. However, all presentation aids have one thing in common. To be effective, each presentation aid a speaker uses must be a direct, uncluttered example of a specific element of the speech. It is understandable that someone presenting a speech about Abraham Lincoln might want to include a picture of him, but because most people already know what Lincoln looked like, the picture would not contribute much to the message, unless perhaps the message was specifically about the changes in Lincoln's appearance during his time in office. Other visual artifacts are more likely to deliver information more directly relevant to the speech. A diagram of the interior of Ford's Theater, where Lincoln was assassinated. A facsimile of the messy and much-edited Gettysburg Address, or a photograph of the Lincoln family, for example. The key is that each presentation aid must directly express an idea in your speech. Moreover, presentation aids must be used at the time when you are presenting the specific ideas related to the aid. For example, if you're speaking about coral reefs and one of your supporting points is about the location of the world's major reefs, it will make sense to display a map of these reefs while you're talking about the location. If you display it while you're explaining what coral actually is, or describing the kinds of fish that feed on a reef, the map will not serve as a useful visual aid. In fact, it's likely to be a distraction. Presentation aids must also be easy to use. At a conference on organic farming, your author watched as the facilitator opened the orientation session by creating a conceptual map of our concerns, using a large newsprint pad on an easel. In his shirt pocket were wide-tipped felt markers in several colors. As he was using the black marker to write the word pollution, he dropped the cap on the floor, and it rolled a few inches under the easel. When he bent over to pick up the cap, all the other markers fell out of his pocket. They rolled about too, and when he tried to retrieve them, he bumped the easel, leading the easel and newsprint pad to tumble over top of him. The audience responded with amusement and thundering applause, but the serious tone of his speech was ruined. The next 2 days of the conference were punctuated with allusions to the unforgettable orientation speech. This is not how you want your speech to be remembered. To be effective, presentation aids must also be easy for the listeners to see and understand. In this chapter, we will present some principles and strategies to help you incorporate hard-working, effective presentation aids into your speech. We will begin by discussing the functions that good presentation aids fulfill. Next, we will explore some of the many types of presentation aids and how best to design and utilize them. We will also describe various media that can be used for presentation aids. We will conclude with tips for successful preparation and use of presentation aids in a speech.